Hi folks, in this video we're looking at season 6 and 7 in the Sabres history. That's 1975-76, 76-77, and this installment of the Sabres Chronicles coming up. Okay, I'm gonna go over this as quick as we can, and I'm gonna try and get as much stuff in here as I can. And if I've forgotten anything, like I've done on this board, I'll do some points again, because I did realize last video, there's a few things I didn't mention. I'm gonna mention those now, and we're gonna get right into the video. All right, here we go. Notes on the 74-75 season I didn't mention in the last video. Props to Washington and Kansas City being born. Kansas City Scouts, who became the Colorado Rockies, who we know now as the New Jersey Devils. Were born in this season here. The Caps that year went 8-67-5. Still a record of futility. I know that the Sharks had that 70-game losing streak. Folks, that team would have killed this Capitals team. Trust me. This Capital team was so bad. And that was the reason I was really cheering them on to beat Vegas a few years ago. I loved the Vegas story back then, but I had to go for the Capitals because of this. I seen this happen. It was brutal. It was brutal to watch. So Caps went 8-67-5. They went 139-0 on the road. 181 goals for, 446 against, minus 265. They were bad. Kansas City, we'll go fast over them. 15, 54, and 11, 41 points. And they were 184 goals for, 328 against, minus 144 for another terrible team, you know. Their road record was 3-34-3. So you can imagine. You can just imagine really how bad these teams were, right? It's like I said, it was brutal. They didn't have much to pick from when these poor teams came in. So that's why the Capitals, I'm happy they've got a Stanley Cup now. And so do they, really, when you think of the Devils. They got 3, right? So, I mean, the franchise does. All right, Dave Keon went to the WHA. So my ties were severed. If I had any, because Dave Keon's my original hero. And if I had, this is just a personal thing, if I had any emotional attachment to Leafs, it was gone immediately the year before. But by that point, I was so in love with the Sabres. It didn't, you know, I kind of lost it for Toronto and Keon. And, you know, Dave Keon will always be my original hero. But anyway, let's keep going here. All right, 75-76. We're going to go right into the records of the teams, and then I can break down what happened. The Habs, first overall, 58-11-11, 127-point season, 337 goals for, 174 against, plus 163. Remember we were looking at last season? I think they were plus 149 last season, if I'm right. This was brutal to live. Anyway, at home they were 32-3-5. I'm marking that in because it's important. There's a reason why in a second. You know, of course they were good everywhere. The Flyers were second overall, 51-13-16, 118 points. Folks, this was the Flyers' best year in their history, by the way, just for the record, right there. That was the best year in their history. 348 goals for, 209 against, plus 139. An absolute powerhouse of a team, right? I mean, 36-2-2 at home. 36-2-2. I mean, they were better than the Habs at home. You know what I mean? It's just, and they finished, 9 complete points behind them. So it's like, you know, Boston third overall, 48-15-17, 113 points, 5 points behind the Flyers, 14 behind Montreal, 313 goals for, 237 against, plus 76. Bruins were good throughout the whole 70s, just for the record. The Sabres, number 4. Still a contender, folks. 4th overall. 46-21-13, 105. 105 points, minus 8 points from the year before. 339 goals for, 240 against, plus 99 in goals for and against. It's good. Then the Islanders, 5th overall at 42-21-17, 101 points, 297 goals for, 190 against, plus 107. Trotzy, rookie, 95 points. I marked that down. And also, yes, I did mention that's the Flyers' best in their history. I'm only going to put the top 5 teams because the rest of the league was so far behind these 5 that, it didn't really, there was no point marking LA, Toronto, and there's no point because those guys were like just 500 teams, So there's no point. There was a big drop off after the top 5 every year for a while, actually. And it was always the same 5 contenders. All right, French Connection, Perreault, 80 games played, 44 goals, 69 assists, 113 points. Rick Martin, where is it? There we go. Okay, no, René Robert. I'm getting mixed up here. René Robert, because I'm a little crooked, as you can see. 72 games, 35 goals, 52 assists, 87 points. Rick Martin, painfully 49 goals, 37 assists, 86 points. And I threw in Danny Gare. It's important I threw in Danny Gare because of the year he had. He led the team in goals. He played 79 games. He had 50 goals, 23 assists. And that's why I put him there. NHL leaders in scoring. Lafleur was number 1, 56 goals, 69 assists, 125 points. Bobby Clarke was second with 76 games played, 4 games less. 30 goals, 89 assists, 119 points. 4 games, that would have been tight with him and Lafleur if he played every game. And Gilbert Perreault was number 3 in the league that year, 44 goals, 69 assists, as I just said here, and 113 points. That pretty much covers like the overall of that season. I wanted to look at just a bit of this stuff so we can get into the playoffs, which was kind of important, of course. Schoenfeld, second year as captain. Floyd Smith, second year as coach. Punch is still the GM. All the same suspects are the names that are prominent are still there as the leaders of the team. Key drafts in this season, and I'll explain this later. Key drafts, my dog's yawning in case you heard that. The key drafts were in the first round was Bob Sauvé at number 17 in the first round. And we drafted Don Edwards, number 89 in the 5th round. And why these are key drafts, 1980, these 2 goaltenders won the Vezina together. So you know what I mean? These were key drafts in this year for our future, which we'll go over eventually in the 1980 season, but 1980 was one hell of a year. We'll get to that eventually. All right, let's get into the playoffs because, I just want to keep moving here. 75-76 playoffs, here we go. Mini-series, the Sabres have to play the mini-series now because, we just didn't finish, Anyway, 76, here we go. Game number 1. Here's where it gets a little scary what started happening with the Sabres. These are the seasons where I call them the contending seasons. That's what they were. They were the contending seasons. Huge disappointments, these seasons. They were huge disappointments. Game number 1, the Sabres lose 5-2. We're facing elimination right away. Right out of the gate, we're facing elimination in the best of 3. Right out of the gate. We come home. We win 3-2. We win 3-2 and over because the way we used to do it then, I believe, the first game was on the road, the next 2 at home, and then they changed that to 1-1-1. But anyway, they play this. In game number 2, it goes to overtime. So we're facing elimination for 11 minutes and 43 seconds. We could just be out 2 straight, and that's it. So that's luckily that we score in overtime. Danny Gare, 11:43, scores, forces a final and deciding game. Game number 3 goes to overtime again. Don Luce scores, 14:27. The Sabres move on. They got lucky here, very lucky, very, very lucky. I mean, they did not lose that first round, right? That mini series. They got very lucky. And the rest of the series, so that back-to-back in Buffalo, facing elimination, overtime. Sabres win 2-1 the series. They just escape with their lives, Just escape. Islanders win over the Canucks 2 straight. LA over Atlanta 2 straight. Leafs over the Penguins in 3, 2-1. Those are the teams that move on. Now, quarterfinals. Here we go. Game number 1. Sabres win 5-3. In Buffalo. Game number 2 in Buffalo. We win in overtime again. Danny Gare, 14:04. Stranglehold. Sabres take a 2-0 lead. And you remember how the Islanders showed all that promise in 74-75 where they won 8 straight games facing elimination. Not much phased this team. This team was so mentally strong. I couldn't believe how people were calling this team chokers for so long. For years, that's all you heard about the Islanders, how they're chokers, they can't win the big game. It's the dumbest thing. Game number 3 in New York. Islanders make a statement. They win 5-3. They get back in the series. Game number 4, Islanders even up the series and hold serve on home ice. 4-2 Islanders. Back to Buffalo. So Sabres are under pressure again like the first round here. The Islanders win 4-3 in Buffalo. So now we're facing elimination going back to New York. Game 6 in New York. Islanders wrap us up. They win 3-2. Out of nowhere, we just lose 4 straight playoff games. This, for me as a kid, was so heartbreaking because, in 74-75, you think, the Sabres will win the Cup next year, which, of course, it never happened, right? So this was heartbreaking. And the other series, potential Game 7 upsets happened. This was a year that a lot of upsets could have happened, except the Habs, of course. Flyers over the Leafs in 7. The Leafs pushed them 7. Boston over LA in 7. LA pushed them 7. I mean, LA and Toronto were just average teams. These other two were powerhouse teams. They were very good teams. Montreal over Chicago, 4 straight. Chicago scores 3 goals in 4 games. Yeah, nothing's happening in Montreal. We know that. All right, semifinals. Montreal run into the Islanders. Montreal has nothing of it. They just have nothing of it. They take out the Islanders 4-1 in a inconvincing matter, actually. They were good games. I could have marked the scores. I didn't. Did I mark any of the scores? Nah. There was no point. It were tight games, but Montreal just, Montreal was not going to, they're not going to, it was the beginning of their dynasty here. Nothing was going to stop the Habs, believe me. Flyers over the Bruins, 4-1. So the top 2 overall teams have made it to the finals in convincing manner, right? Except the Flyers struggled with the Leafs. Not a good sign, right? In the finals, Montreal wins 4 straight over the Philadelphia Flyers in the best year in the Flyers' history. 4 straight. 3 games were by 1 goal. I think it was the last game was by 2. And I should mention, I did mark it down good. Conn Smythe, Reggie Leach got it. He had 19 goals at playoffs, which is still a record to this day. I believe Curry got it in Edmonton, but played a lot more games, if I'm right. I'd have to check it, but I'm pretty sure Curry tied him. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, 16 games played, 19 goals, 5 assists. He wins the Conn Smythe. 19 goals. Good Lord, right? And so this is the first of the Habs dynasty years right here. This is the first cup. Yeah, it's going to be painful for me to go through it too, but it's important to see what happened with the Sabres in these years because for people that didn't see this, you got to remember that it looked like they were going to win a Stanley Cup back then, and then they kind of just took a step back, and it was like the Islanders became the team that in the forefront eventually. You know what I mean? Because the Islanders choked up a bit too, but the Islanders, I'll explain why I think all this happened in a future video. I don't think it'll be in this video tonight, but I have a real reason why I believe all this happened. Let's go into 76-77 now. That's just a painful memory of a season. All right, let's keep it running. Montreal, oh, good Lord. Remember when I said in my videos, for you folks that have seen my past videos, and I told you this was the greatest team in history, believe me, this team was so damn good. It was, I can't put it in words. You wouldn't believe it. You'd think, this guy's full of it. Trust me, this team was so damn good. They would have cleaned the floor with anybody in this season in hockey history, even their own great teams of the past. All right, the Habs, 80 games played, 60 wins, 8 losses, 12 ties. The 132-point season. Yeah, we've seen Tampa Bay, but the year Tampa did it and got close to this, they lost to Columbus 4 straight. The year Detroit got close to this and did it, they choked up in the playoffs and lost to Colorado in 6. They didn't win the Cups, those 2 teams. This team cleaned everybody's clock and just went all the way. 387 goals, 471 against. Folks, plus 216. Plus 216. Will we ever see that happen again? Unreal. Anyway. Montreal at home. I was just looking at something here. Okay, at home. They were, I should note, they lost 1 game at home all year. And for the longest time, I thought it was Buffalo that won that game. It wasn't. It was Boston that beat them in Montreal. Montreal went 33-1-6 at home that year. 33-1-6. Imagine. And in Buffalo season series, we were 2-2-1 against them. So you can understand my frustration with the Sabres back then when we could compete with Montreal. Any given night, we ran into them. We could compete with them, although they routed us in a game that during the year 9-2 in that season. They in Buffalo, they completely destroyed us 9-2 one night. All right, second overall, the Flyers. No surprise there, eh? Philly's still a good team. 48-16-16, 112 points. 20 points behind the Habs. Second overall in the league. 20 points behind the Habs. Oh, gee. 323 goals for, 213 against, plus 110 in any season, anywhere, anytime. That's an amazing season. It's awesome. Except the Habs had the best year in NHL history. Oh, God. Oh. The Bruins, 49-23-8, 106 points. Here's where this is going to be important, what I show here, these three, how they're jammed in. 312, 312 for, 240 against, plus 72. Bruins were good again, third overall. The Islanders flip with the Sabres. They jump into fourth overall. 80 games played, 47 wins, 21 losses, 12 ties, 106 points. But the Bruins had more wins, so they get it. They get third. 288 goals for, 193 against, plus 95. And the Sabres. 80 games played, great year. 48 wins, 24 losses, 8 ties, 104 points, 301 goals for, 220 against. It feels like they're declining, eh? There's a reason for that. Plus 81. I mean, they're still awesome. I mean, 75, they won 49 games. Here they won 48. You know what I mean? But anyway, we'll get to it eventually. Next video won't be. I have a logical explanation what happened to the Sabres back then. Perreault, 80 games played, 39 goals, 56 assists, 95 points. René Robert, 80 games played, 33 goals, 40 assists, 73 points. And Rick Martin, 66 games played, 36 goals. God, he was just so steady with scoring goals, Rick Martin. Unbelievable. 29 assists, 65 points for the French Connection. Punch is still the GM. Smith is still the coach. Schoenfeld's still the captain. I put something here, I believe, too. Many unanswered questions because of the early because that was an early exit for the Sabres. Not making the Final Four. This is an early exit for our standards now. You got to remember this, right? Many unanswered questions because of the early 1975-76 exit, playoff exit. Drafts, first time. No first rounders in this draft. We had no first rounders. We traded ours to Atlanta for Jacques Richard. I don't know if any of you remember him. He's the guy that got 52 goals one year with Quebec. You might remember. It was like 1982 or something around there. I don't know, but I'm positive he got 52. Positive. It's 52 goals. When I say I'm positive, who knows, right? I mean, I'm 57, so 52, 57. Who knows? Okay, so no noise in the draft. So it's the first draft that we do no noise. No noise happens. You know, we always had that new guy that came in and not this time. Not this time. And the 1977, yeah, I'll talk about the 77 draft in the next video. This is, I just marked a footnote for myself. Don't ask me why, I won't forget. Here we go, 76-77 playoffs. I wonder who won the cup. All right, mini-series. Game number 1. Now the Sabres want to bounce back here. The way we went out last year wasn't nice. It was like we were up 2-0. We just survived this series. This time we looked good in it. But the year before we didn't look steady. We just got through it. We're up 2-0 on the Islanders. It looks like we're going deeper. And all of a sudden, boom, 4 straight losses to the Islanders all of a sudden. Wasn't good. Game number 1, North Stars at Buffalo. Buffalo wins 4-2. And then game number 2 at Mini. Sabres wrap it up 7-1. They look ready this time around. No screwing around, you figure, right? And the other series in the mini, the Islanders beat Chicago 2 straight. LA over Atlanta in 3. Atlanta Flames, folks, for some that don't know. Leafs over the Penguins in 3. Quarterfinals. This is always where the playoffs really started back in my day, I believed, when you made the final 8. You know, now it's 16, but it used to be 8. All right, game number 1. Here we go. Don't forget, the Islanders got home ice over us now. Shouldn't matter, you figure. There should be a revenge factor for what happened to us the year before, right? And we showed all that promise in 75, and Islanders win 4-2. Game number 2, Islanders win 4-2 again. So of course, as a kid, I'm probably like freaking out. We come back to Buffalo. Islanders win 4-3. We're down 3-0, just like that. Game number 4, Islanders close it out 4-3. Season over. That's it. 4 straight. You'd be just saying, well, what happened? That's how a Sabres fan felt back then, folks. What happened? Why? Like, you wouldn't understand it, right? It took me years to kind of believe why. Well, you know. All right, so Sabres swept 4 straight for the first time in their history. But folks, remember, the Islanders beat us the last 4 of last year's playoffs. So our last 8 playoff losses are to the Islanders. They've beaten us 8 straight times in the playoffs now. I don't think they would have beaten us in 75, but I'm just saying, you know. Islanders, 8 straight playoff wins. Yeah, over us, I just said that. And okay, here we go, the other quarterfinal series. Bruins over LA in 6. Remember, they played them the year before and LA pushed them 7. Flyers over the Leafs in 6. Remember, the Leafs pushed them 7. Funny, eh, how these teams met up again. It's just kind of funny. And the Habs over the Blues 4 straight. Blues score 4 goals in 4 games. I mean, look, folks, the Habs weren't going to be denied by this. You know, that's the one good thing I can take out of these memories. Montreal couldn't be beat by anybody, by any team today, any team I've ever seen in this year. Nobody was going to beat Montreal. Just would have been an honor to play them in the finals. That's all that was, you know. Semifinals. Habs in 6 over the Islanders. Oh, this was the, this is 70. Okay, New York goes down fighting hard in this series, the Islanders. All right. In this, I put tell story, but I marked the scores. Good, okay, because it's easier on my brain if I did mark the scores. Good. So Habs win the first game 4-3. Habs win the second game 3-0. The Islanders win game 3 in New York 5-3, right? You just knew the Islanders are going to win this game, even though Montreal's 16-8. It's the law of averages, you know, they're going to win. Habs win 4-0. Game 4, they have nothing of that. Say, no, we're just taking this by the throat and we're going home with it. They go back to Montreal. Montreal's lost 1 home game all year, folks. The Islanders win in overtime. Billy Harris scores at 3:58. I never forgot this. That's when I knew, that minute was when I knew the Islanders are going to win the Stanley Cup. Not this year, but they're going to win the Stanley. I was convinced they're going to win a Stanley Cup. My friends would laugh at me back then, but I was absolutely convinced the Islanders eventually were going to win a Stanley Cup. I didn't know they win 4 straight. That I didn't know. Montreal goes back to New York. New York fights, but they just come up short 2-1. Montreal move on to the finals. Boston get their revenge for 74. They sweep the Flyers 4 straight. You know, that's kind of a revenge series the way I see that. And anyway, the Habs play the Bruins in the finals. Remember, they swept the last couple. They swept this one too. Montreal gets to the finals. They sweep Boston 4 straight, outscoring them 16-6. Lemaire scores game 4 in overtime at 4:32. I still remember this. I still remember the apartment I lived in. I remember I was in the living room. I remember I was watching it, and my buddy came because he just stole a car. It's a long story. You know, when we were kids, we were kind of nuts. He just stole a car, and he wanted to show me it. This buddy of mine, he would steal cars and keep the keys for the souvenirs, like he's, you know. And he stopped doing it. He's good now, just so you know. And yeah, he came by with a car, and I said, listen, I want to see the overtime with, Montreal Boston. He goes, why? He goes, we're going to win. He goes, it's 3-0. He goes, see, this series is over. Even if Boston win today, they're just prolonging their suffering. And he was right. They could be beaten. They couldn't be beaten, this team. Absolutely impossible. Show me any Oilers team that could match up to this team. Not happening, sorry. And Gretzky was the most phenomenal offensive machine I've seen in my entire life, but my God, you would have needed 5 Gretzkys to beat this team. Okay, so we're gonna move on, we'll move on from that. So the finals, the Habs sweep them, and that's year number 2 of their dynasty out of the 4 straight cups. And the Sabres have a bunch of questions. We don't know what to think now. We just don't know what to think, right? I'll see you for next video. My final thoughts on this are, I really want to mention the 77 draft in next video. That was key. And also what I believed was the reason for this. It took years for me to come to these conclusions, because as a kid, you're confused. You're like, how did this happen? How did this team in 75 look so amazing and so ready to be Stanley Cup champions decline when they were still very young, All right, anyway, I would say these are great memories or not. Sorry, but they're important to know historically. They are. This is an important historic videos I'm putting together, because kids need to know why the Sabres, why those statues are outside. Just for that reason, this is why. This was an amazing trio, folks. I mean, and they never got to win a Stanley Cup. It breaks my heart still. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank you for suffering with me at memory lane. And listen, take care of yourself, folks. I'll see you soon. And the next video will, I think, there'll be more clarity. Okay, this was like the fog era, I guess I should call it. The fog game kind of continued into 2 more years of my life, it felt like, these 2 seasons. Anyway, take care of yourself. I'll see you soon.